Good morning, everyone. And today's topic is elasticity of demand. This is the continuation from demand concept. Before going into the topic, let me remind you the law of demand. So, the law of demand states that when the demand for a consumer, when the price increases, demand decreases. And when the price decreases, demand increases. This is the law of demand. And here, what we are going to do with elasticity of demand. So, in the law of demand, it tells when the price is more, demand is less. But it did not measure or did not say how much if price is more and what will be the demand. And when the price is lesser, what will be the increased in demand? That measure, that response, we don't know. So, in order to calculate or in order to understand how much if price increases, demand decreases, or if the price decreases, how much the demand the people are going to demand in the market. To know that measure, here today we are studying about the topic called elasticity. So, the elasticity word we have borrowed from the science. And in general, to say elasticity means where we can find, for example, I can say your rubber band. So, the rubber band, when you pull, it will expand. When you push, it will contract. So, the contraction and expansion takes place when we pull and push the rubber band. That is nothing but elasticity. That means which shows the response. So, today's topic will discuss about what is elasticity of demand. So, elasticity is an index of reaction. I told you when we pull the rubber band, it will expand. When we push the rubber band, it will contract. So, elasticity which shows the reaction in the price and demand. If how much price is more, what will be the response for the demand? So, here it measures the responsiveness of one variable to the changes in another variable. So, one variable here is price. We have a 4 determinants of demand: price, price of the related goods, income of a consumer, taste and preferences of a consumer. So, in this any one variable changes, automatically the demand is going to change. The demand is going to respond. That is only in this topic we are going to discuss about elasticity of demand. So, for more clearly, the elasticity of demand is generally defined as the responsiveness of demand to a change in one of its determinants. As I told you, the determinants of demand are price, price of the related goods, income of a consumer, taste and preferences of a consumer. These are the determinants. So, if any of these determinants changes, here the demand is going to change or respond while other determinants remain constant. So, let us see what are the different concepts of elasticity of demand. Here we have 3 concepts of elasticity of demand. One is price elasticity of demand. Number 2, income elasticity of demand. Number 3, cross elasticity of demand. So, we have 3 concepts, but for y'all the second PUC, we are not studying about the income and the cross. We are going to concentrate on price elasticity of demand. So, now let us move towards, let us learn today what is price elasticity of demand. So, the price elasticity of demand. Here, We have four determinants, as I repeating again and again: price, price of a related goods, income of a consumer, taste and preferences. So we are not concentrating on this three aspects. Excuse me. The price of the related goods, income of a consumer and taste and preferences. We are not going to concentrate on this determinant. Only one determinant we are considering in this topic, price elasticity of demand. That is, we are considering the price alone in this topic. So we'll see what is price elasticity of demand. Price elasticity of demand is a measure of responsiveness of the demand for a good to a change in its price. So, how much price is going to change here? So, this delta represent changes. So, how much the price is going to change, so much the demand is going to respond. This, with the help of a mathematical equation, we will see here how this is measured. So, the formula is given. The price elasticity of demand is put it in a short form, PED. PED equals percentage change in demand divided by percentage change in price. That is what given here. Percentage change in quantity demanded is divided by percentage change in prices. So, to make it very simple, here we can have another formula also, or PED equals delta Q into P divided by delta P into Q. So, this is the formula to calculate price elasticity of demand. So, this delta is nothing but changes. So, here what is the price? Changes, how much the demand is going to change. And what is the price changing? How much the quantity demanded is responding. So, that is what we are going to understand from the price elasticity of demand. So, to know this more clearly, we'll move towards classification of price elasticity of demand. In the price elasticity of demand, we have 5 classification. Number 1, here you can see, we can say types or we can say classification, both are same. In the price elasticity of demand, we have 5 different classification, that is perfectly elastic demand. Before going to this, let me tell you the two concepts. In the elasticity, we have 2 types. One is elastic, another one is inelastic. Elastic means, as we all know, that when we pull and push, it expand and contract. For example, rubber band. Inelastic means which remain constant. For example, pencil we cannot pull and push, we cannot expand and contract because it is inelastic. Have you got it? So, in the elasticity we have 2 types. One is elastic, the other one is inelastic. Elastic means which expands and contracts. Inelastic means it cannot happen, which remains constant. Okay, which cannot change, which cannot be pulled or pushed. That is 2 types. Here, the classification, number 1 is perfectly elastic demand. Number 2, perfectly inelastic demand. Number 3, relatively elastic demand. Number 4, relatively inelastic demand. Number 5, unitary elastic demand. So, we will know this, we will understand more clearly with the diagram, and we will know what is this perfectly elastic, perfectly inelastic, relatively inelastic and unitary elastic demand in detail. Now come towards me. Number 1, perfectly elastic demand. So, in the perfectly elastic demand, we have here the price. In the diagram, when you observe, OY axis representing the price, OX axis representing the quantity demand. That is a rule. So always OY axis should represent price and OX axis should represent the quantity demanded. Here what happens is, here the price of a commodity is fixed, the price is same. So here the price given is constant, no change in the price. But whereas the quantity demanded, if you observe, it is unlimited. You can observe in this diagram. So we call this price elasticity of demand. You can observe here, it is not clear. Price elasticity of demand is said to be infinite. This symbol indicates infinite. Infinite means no end, endless. So here the price of a commodity is OP, but the quantity demanded is unlimited, infinite. So here percentage change in demand is unlimited. So we call it as PED is equals to infinite. Here what is the shape of the curve means, that is horizontal straight line. So in a perfectly elastic demand, the demand curve is represented as a horizontal to the OX axis. To the OX axis, here the demand curve is horizontal. Next one is perfectly inelastic demand. In a perfectly inelastic demand, if you observe the diagram here, so OY again representing price, OX axis representing quantity demanded. So here the price will vary, will change. For example, the price is P1. When the price is P1, the demand is OQ. When the price decreases, P2. From P1 to P2, when the price decreases, the quantity demanded is OQ. Still more, when the price decreases from P2 to P3, the quantity demanded is same. That means here the demand is remaining constant. That means there is no changes in the demand, even though when the price may increase to P1 or the price may decrease to P3, the demand remains constant. For this, the elasticity, the perfectly inelastic. Inelastic means, here elastic means it is unlimited. Here inelastic means the demand is not changing. It is inelastic. The demand is inelastic. So whatever the changes in the price, the demand is going to remain constant. So therefore here the price elasticity of demand is said to be 0 because there is no changes in the demand. And what is the shape of the curve here? The shape of the curve here is vertical. The shape of the curve is vertical to the OY axis. This is called as perfectly inelastic demand. So number 3, relatively elastic demand. So relatively elastic demand, here again OY axis which is representing the price and OX axis representing the quantity demand. And here the price elasticity of demand is said to be here when the price is decreased to a smaller quantity. The price decreased to the smaller proportion or a smaller percentage. The demand by the people will be increased more. So relatively, when we compare to the price and the demand, relatively the small change in price. See, in the diagram you can observe here the price changed is very small in number. From P1 to P2, when the P1 to P2 the price is fallen. But if you observe the quantity demand from Q1 to Q2, the demand have been increased. The smaller change in price leads to greater quantity demanded. The demand is increased more. So for example, I will say you here the price from 8 rupees, from 10 rupees to 8 rupees, the price have been fallen. 10 rupees to 8 rupees. What happened to the from 10 to 8? The price is fallen. Price was less. The quantity demand from 20 to 30. See the number here? A small change in price leads to greater change in demand. So it is said to be relatively elastic demand. And here the price elasticity of demand is said to be greater than 1. Because here the price changed is small but the demand by the people is more. So this we call it as a price elasticity of demand is greater than 1, and here the shape of the curve is flatter. The curve shape is flat. See here, this curve is flatter. So this is called as a relatively elastic demand. And next we will see relatively inelastic demand. See the relatively inelastic demand, again OY axis price, OX axis quantity demanded. And here more change in price. The price is fallen more, but the quantity demanded is less. The quantity demanded is less. So here we call this situation as a relatively inelastic demand. Let me give you an example. Here the price changed in a greater amount, but demand is very less. Okay, let me give you an example. The price from 100 rupees to 50 rupees it is decreased. Price decreased from 100 rupees to 50 rupees. But the quantity demand is from 50 to 60. 50 to 60 only is the demand. See the price, how much it is changed. The price changed is more. 50 rupees is a difference. But the demand is only 10 is a difference. From 50 to 60 it is increased. So here the amount of changes in a demand is very less. So the greater changes in price however it is decreases, the demand will be less. For this we call it as relatively inelastic demand. Relatively inelastic demand. So the shape of the curve, if you find, the shape of the curve is steeper here. Steep, it is steep. And the price elasticity of demand is lesser than 1 because the demand is less. The demand is inelastic. The price increases in a large quantity but the quantity demanded is less. So we call this as the price percentage changes in price elasticity of demand is lesser than 1. So the next we move towards unitary elastic demand, number 5. So the unitary elastic demand, which explains again OY axis price, OX axis quantity demanded, and here whatever the percentage change in a price leads to same equal amount of percentage change in a demand. Suppose 50% changes in a price, same 50% will be changes in the demand. If 10 is a changes in a price, 10 will be change in a quantity demand. That means equal. How much the price changes, so much the demand is going to be changed. That is called as unitary elastic demand. And here you can find that the price elasticity of demand is said to be equal to 1. Here it is mentioned. And the shape of the curve is, this shape we call it as a rectangular hyperbola. The shape of the curve is rectangular hyperbola. So here the price elasticity of demand will be equals to 1. So this is unitary elastic demand. Okay. Finally, we'll see again the types of price elasticity of demand. Number 1, perfectly elastic demand. So there is a greater change in the demand in response to a percentage, smaller change in a price. And you can go through the various example descriptions given here. You can go through this. And let me clarify and tell you. The perfectly elastic demand. The price elasticity of demand is perfectly elastic demand is PED is said to be infinite, and the shape of the curve here is horizontal to the x-axis. Number 2, perfectly inelastic demand. Here the shape of the curve is vertical. The price elasticity of demand is said to be 0. Number 3, relatively elastic demand. Here the price elasticity of demand is greater than 1. The shape of the curve is flatter. And relatively inelastic demand, here PED is lesser than 1, the shape of the curve is steeper. And unitary elastic demand, where PED is equals to 1, here the shape of the curve is rectangular hyperbola. So let me clarify the last column. Perfectly elastic demand, here for example the demand for a product decreases or completely stops with a little change in a price and vice versa. In a perfectly inelastic demand, consumer do not respond to the demand for a product with increase and decrease in its price. Whatever the changes in a price, there is no response in a demand. So we call it as a perfectly inelastic demand. In the relatively elastic demand, the percentage change in a quantity demanded for a product is greater than percentage change in its price. Okay, so whatever the price, little changes also, there will be a greater demand for the good. It is called as a relatively elastic demand. And relatively inelastic demand, the change in a demand for a product is less than the change in its price. Small change in a price leads to greater changes in a demand. It is called as a relatively inelastic demand. And finally, unitary elastic demand. The change in the demand and the change in the price of a product are same or equal. This is called as a elasticity of demand. Thank you for watching.